We are in the studio, live and local, as it should be. And we have the phone ringing and someone on the line, but I'm not sure who it is. So I will say good morning, Choice 102.
Good morning. It's Melissa Coe.
Hello, Melissa. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, I wanted to share just a little bit about Chuck. And I was involved with Sarah Little League when Kevin and Jeff both played Little League, and Chuck was their coach. Now, it's not always good that dads are coaches, but Chuck was a little bit different. He was very, very patient with them, and his boys grew up with my boys. So we've known the Carver family a very, very long time, and even from way back then, it's always been for the kids. He would coach and I don't even think they kept score. I don't think that mattered to Chuck. He just wanted all those boys and girls to have a good time playing baseball.
Yeah.
So,
it's funny because, Todd says, Chuck only wants to spend like 5 minutes on this and then we're going to move on. But at the same time, the guy had all the patience in the world, and I envied that so much. Like, God, I wish I had Chuck's patience. How does he and how does he find the time? And now I know, because it was only ever 5 minutes on one thing or another at the radio station. Then it was off to be patient with kids, coaching Little League or whatever.
And he had like 12 or 13 9 to 12-year-olds, and they were mostly boys. And him raising 2 boys, me raising 3 boys, it wasn't an easy feat. And to watch him with as many patience as he had, teaching those young boys, how to play ball, that was just so special.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Melissa, for calling in and sharing that memory of Chuck Carver with us this morning. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for honoring him so.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
It is Choice 102. It's 10:42. This is the day after the passing of our friend Chuck Carver, widely regarded as the voice of the Valley. How did that happen? How did that start, the voice of the Valley? And how do you feel about Chuck being the voice of the Valley?
I was sort of in and out. I was here from 76 to 79, came back in 85, I think, when we were putting the deal together to buy the radio station. Was here until the end of 1990, then got the bright idea to go back to grad school, then went off and did other things, and then came back in 2008, I think, and was here through 2016. You add it all up, it's something like 20 years or something like that, but was always involved in the ownership since 1986, so we had a lot of conversations in that regard.
A lot of phone calls.
But Chuck was here. I mean, he was just here since 1976, so that's how, and I don't know how the phrase "voice of the Valley" came to be. It's just the word now is it's organic. It just happened, and so it's true. So
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
you can't disagree with it.
No,
no. But Dean Luchenko was here earlier. He's our one of our engineers, the main engineer for WATS and WAVR. He takes care of our transmitter sites and all the wires between here and there. And he shared a couple of thoughts with us on the air, but he did also text me earlier, and I'm only seeing it now because my phone is full of text messages. But I want to read what Dean wrote at 8:22 this morning. He said, "Chuck and I clicked from the moment we met. He and Todd put their unwavering faith in myself and our sons Kevin and Brian to keep Choice 102 on the air. Shortly after we came on board, he enlisted Deb to do her part, and the station became a great part of our lives. One Chuck story, there was a lightning strike. He told us the lightning strike story. Yeah. So there was that. I have a text message here from Patrick Ayers. The Village of Waverly expresses condolences to the Carver family at the passing of Chuck Carver. Chuck was dedicated to the success of the Valley community as a whole and always supported the Village of Waverly. His presence will be missed, and I am certain that his legacy will live on through WATS and WAVR. Patrick Ayers, Mayor, Village of Waverly." have a personal text message here from a friend of mine. I'm so sorry about the loss of your friend. Special prayers for you all. That comes to us from my very dear friend Beth Mann, who is a very successful radio station owner in the extremely small western Kentucky town of Cadiz, Kentucky.
Oh, yes.
And we're good friends with her through the International Broadcasters Idea Bank. After Sherry called last night to tell me the terrible news while I was in the Wendy's drive-thru on 5th Avenue in Owego with 3 kids in the back seat, Sherry calls. Of course, Bluetooth picks up the call. It always picks it up when you don't want it to and never when you want it to. So she's on speakerphone and she's trying to tell me that she has very bad news for me. And the lady in the box is asking me what kind of sauce we want. And they won't stop for nothing. So unfortunately, I know something terrible has happened. And so I have to ask Sherry to wait while we order our sweet and sour sauce to go with the chicken nuggies for the kids in the back seat. Sherry tells me the very bad news. And then I called Mike because you got the news from Mike Shaw. So I called Mike Shaw. I don't know why, me trying to confirm the story with Mike Shaw that Sherry got from Mike Shaw makes any sense at all. I guess it was my way of saying, hey, Mike, if this is a terrible joke, this is a terrible joke. Mm-hmm. And sadly, it was not a joke at all. He shared a story with me. And one of the things I love about all this Chuck stuff is that so much of it is recent and fresh and just within a few minutes practically. Mm-hmm. Last week, I mentioned earlier that we went on a conference and we took Sherry with us, or graciously Sherry decided to come with us and keep us supervised, as Irene and I often require when out in public. And, I don't know, the 20th, whatever day, that was a couple Thursdays ago, we boarded a plane in Elmira and flew to Detroit and connected to Dallas-Fort Worth before renting a car and driving north to Durant, Oklahoma for an International Broadcasters Idea Bank. And it was a really proud moment for me. Chuck enabled many proud moments in my career within this last year, allowing us to propel to the next level. And so I took a selfie of myself and Irene and Emily and Sherry and Jackie, who accompanied us on this conference. And I wrote a little something and I posted it. And Chuck saw the post of us at this conference. And him and Mike got on the phone like apparently they do almost every day. And Chuck said, I don't know why I never thought of that. In the nearly 20 years that Sherry's worked with me at the radio station, I never thought to bring her along to a conference. And here the Radigans have barely been here 6 months, and they're bringing Sherry to a conference. He says to Mike, and this is quoting through Mike, the Radigans have got it going on. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. That's just how supportive the guy was. And it's funny, the things that he did think of and versus the things he didn't think of. And to me, it's like the simple things he didn't think of a lot of the time. But when it came to creating some giant beast of a thing like Scholarship Challenge that had so many heads and so many moving parts and so many people, he could come up with that in an instant. And I could go through an entire career and never think of something as brilliant as that. Mm-hmm. And I just sitting here, this is the most amount of time you and I have ever sat in a room and talked, Todd. But I feel like, and I have I have a relationship with my wife, Irene, and we work together here at the radio station day in and day out. And I feel like a lot of my relationship with Irene is she comes up with some crazy idea, drops it on our laps, leaves the building, and then we're left figuring out how to execute this vision. Mm-hmm. And sitting here speaking with you this morning, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like you're the guy who has had more than one Charles C. Carver Jr. ideas dumped in your lap as he walks out the building, and you're left to figure out, well, how are we going to pull this off?
I would say that Both of us had ideas, some good, some bad, but we were good at gauging each other and saying, that's a fantastic idea, or that's a horrible idea. Very honest that way. And so that's how a lot of those things happened. But again, the beauty of it was, I've worked in organizations where if you had an idea, it might be a year before a decision was made up or down on that idea. The thing in broadcasting, and here in particular, again, it was like
local broadcasting.
It was like, yeah, that's a great idea, and it was happening. It was like,
it's already,
boom, it's
already
happening.
in motion.
It's happening. So that's what I really enjoyed about broadcasting. And I would also say that Chuck was famous for, like you say, certain details he didn't have any patience for. His standard note was, here's what somebody sent me, please handle.
Yeah.
Right. Please handle. Okay.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
There was we have five kids, right? I'm the lucky stepdad of 4 bonus children, and of course, baby Emily, who people never stop hearing about on the radio, and is in the office most days here. And so we spend our fair share of time in and out of emergency rooms, hospitals, whatever. And on one occasion, since I met Chuck, I don't even remember why, but for some reason, we were at Robert Packer Hospital for something. And we were there for a long day or an overnight or it's the funny thing. You don't even remember what the emergency was at the time. But I got home that night and we were in the WEBO car. You can't miss it. Giant red letters, everybody's seen it. I got home and I pulled into the garage. And it wasn't until then that I noticed something underneath my windshield wiper. How observant am I? It's a little white ticket underneath the windshield wiper. So I get out of the car in the garage, I lift up the wiper, and I pull this little white ticket out. And I still have it somewhere at home. But it says something to the effect of, I hope all went well for you and your family. CCC. And on the other side was his business card. And he had gone over to Robert Packer to visit one of his parishioners, I think is the right word for it, and saw the station vehicle out in the parking lot and knew that we were there for one thing or the other, and took the time to write sloppily a very kind, heartfelt, thoughtful note and stick it under our windshield wiper for us to find at a later time. And it was early on in our relationship when I was still forming my impression of him and trying to figure out what kind of guy he was. But that's something that will always stay with me, of just how genuine and thoughtful, and who cares if you were the guy across town working for the competing radio station. And at the end of the day, in this world of consolidation where everything has to be put together in the same pot, I think that WATS, WAVR, WEBO, finally joining under the same umbrella, has become a better thing for WEBO and for WAVR and WATS than we ever could have imagined.
Right.
Because going off into the future, facing all of these Goliaths, and all these out-of-state owners and corporate owners, it makes all 3 stations stronger and more successful together to be able to continue doing the things like Scholarship Challenge and Christmases for Kids.
I think that there was, our idea, and Chuck was very strong about this, was that if you serve the community and care about it, it will become obvious to the community, and that, financial success will follow. It's not
Right.
It's not how do we become profitable? Well, let's, streamline this and do this and syndicate this. It's if we do it right, if we have a strong local news presence, we're out there in the community, we're doing all these things out in the community, the financial success will follow. And that's what happened in our case. It's do the right thing first and the other will follow.
Yeah, absolutely.